Or I think I'm rubbing them off. No idea how to do that. What kind of book is animals? What the hell? I've read a lot of Kindle. Combined together, I think I died. I'm sorry if you can hear my sister downstairs. She's currently blasting music, and so am I, so I'm going to turn this off. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Eilidh, and if you're not, then hello. It is good to see you. Again, I'm pretty sure you're going to be hearing background music all throughout this video, because I can literally hear it. I'm going to ask her to turn it down. She's not turning it down, and that is the most infuriating thing in the entire world. But we're going to ignore that. We're going to ignore it, and we're going to get into this video. I read 17 books in August, and I actually have no idea how I did that. Like, no idea how I achieved to read that much. I think I genuinely did, especially on my holiday away. I read like 7 books in a week. Granted, one of them was a novella, but still, I read 7 books in a week. I really needed that holiday. Like, I'm not even going to talk about it, but I read 17 books in August. So let's do like a little wrap up of everything I read. The majority of these books, I do believe I read on Kindle, because I love my Kindle, but we're just going to go through everything in order, because, you know, how else would I do this video? Well, fast. We're starting with I did a 24-hour challenge this month, so that's maybe why as well, but we read Powerful and Reckless. Both of these books just took me by surprise. I gave Powerful 4 stars and Reckless was a 5 stars. I bloody love this book. I love Payton and Kai. Kai, he has my heart. But also Powerful made me stop, made me cry, broke my heart into like a million pieces. And this one didn't put it back together. It made me giggle, it made me laugh, and there were some cute moments, but there were like, you know, the ending to this book as well, like, what the hell? Like, what were you trying to make me feel? Like, this one cried, this one shocked. Combined together, I think I died. But yeah, I love this series. This series is so good, and I cannot wait for the next one. But anyway, moving on, we then read, I needed a cute book after that. I needed something, I needed something that was light and cheery and just, I knew there wasn't going to be any fuck ups. And Sarah Adams is that author I go to. She doesn't write the third act breakups. There's no like distraught feeling in that. And I think she's like, this is a very realistic example of probably a relationship, I find personally in her books. So I read the rule book, which is I'm not going to say it's in the series, because I think you don't have to read the books in order, but it's in the same world as the cheat sheet. So you do see some of the characters from that book in this one. So, you know, read the cheat sheet first if you want to know the story of their relationship, because you see their like end relationship in this one. But so freaking cute. This is like NFL player. It's a second chance romance. And I guess a bit like enemies to lovers, or like dislike, hatred, but not quite hatred. Hate is such a strong word. Dislike to lovers, second chance thing. I think this was false proximity as well, because he is an NFL player, she's his agent, but they didn't know that they were going to be working together until last minute. And yeah, a bit of false proximity. And also fake dating as well. There's fake dating in this, which I forgot about that. Marriage trope. Marriage, I would say marriage of convenience as well. You know, enemies to lovers, marriage of convenience, false proximity, fake dating. This kind of book just had it all. I remember really enjoying this book, actually, now thinking back to it. But anyway, we're now moving on to 2 books. I think it was 2 books I read on my Kindle next, which was the 6th book in the Perfectly Imperfect series, which was called Fractured Souls. I gave this book a 4 stars. I don't actually think it's my favourite. Am I in focus? I don't think it's my favourite one in the series. I think it was a bodyguard romance, if I remember correctly. I think actually looking back at it, I think I'm going to give it a 3 stars, because I would recommend it. Like, I would recommend the whole of the series, but this one I was just like, it felt very jumpy for me, but it is a short book. It's not that long. I think it's just under 300 pages. So it's like, yeah, it was alright. It was good. But then I went on and I read a really good book, which is a 4 stars. Caught Up, which is the 3rd book in the Windy City series. It's baseball player, single dad, nanny, grumpy ex-sunshine, I guess forced proximity as well, another enemies to lovers or like dislike, didn't get on at first, to lovers. Bang. Really damn good. The Windy City series, I think so far, I liked the 2nd one and then probably Caught Up and then Mile High. Because the 2nd one was a book girl and I love reading about book girls. You know, besties, relatable. But this one was actually really funny and I remember really liking the main girl in this. She was just fun with her dungarees and her double fisting, beer. And she was a chef as well, or like a pastry chef. It was cool. I've never read anything like that before. So that I did give a 4 stars. And then, oh wow, we read a lot of Kindle. And then I read another, oh, what was this one? Oh, I think I'm muddling them up. And then I read Burn Dreams, which is the 7th book in the Perfectly Imperfect series. I have a feeling this is the Bodyguard. Yes, the 7th one was the Bodyguard one. The 6th one, which I got wrong, is... I have no idea. I think it was just... Oh! It was like, how do I describe it? Girl, severely traumatized. Man, mafia, find her, look after her, fall in love. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So I think both of them, like, I think the, like, 6th and 7th, I think I'm going to change my rating to a 3 because they just didn't do justice for me. They just didn't do that for me. Like, I would recommend the series, especially if you love mafia romances, an easy, quick to read, let's say the whole word, read, if you're trying to, like, catch up on your reading goal or something, which is what I do when I'm reading the series. Because mafia, yes. Short, sweet, also yes. Sign me up. But yeah, those last 2, not really well. But then I did move on to a 5 stars. And this book I think has my like heart and my soul. And I love hockey romances. And this book, it was rule number 5. It's the first one in the Rule Breaker series. And 5 stars. I don't even care. This is one book where I will take no criticism on because I enjoyed the whole thing. Like, I enjoyed the plot line, the story, the development, the character development. This is how excited I'm getting. I can't actually speak English. So that should just sum up my feelings in total. I loved it. Like, give me a hockey star. It's also based in college who gets every single girl he possibly wants. But the one girl he does really want and becomes obsessed with and he falls first, she doesn't want him, and she has her rules, you know. Can I remember the rules? No overnight stays, no phone exchanging, no falling in love, no hockey players. I'm missing one. What one am I missing? No kissing. I loved it. I loved everything to do with it. I loved the chemistry. I loved the intensity. Is that a word? Is intensity a word? That. The way that he fell first and he was like fighting for her, it was literally he chased her. Like he wanted her. It was a challenge. And she was like, no. And was stubborn about it and was like, no, but I'll be your friend. Oh, it was so good. I loved it. I love hockey romances. We then went on, which I did like too. I read this on Kindle and I also read it on paperback. The Book of Azrael. Another 5 stars. I mean, 2 5 stars in a row. That's unheard of. No, I actually think I did that in... No, did I? No, I didn't. I might be wrong. Tell me if I'm lying. The Book of Azrael. Fantasy. Dark fantasy. Like, morally grey character, but it's her. Gods. Monsters. Battle. Enemies to lovers. It literally had the works. Like, the whole thing. I have no notes. Like, I have nothing bad to say about this book. I have nothing to say that was missing. It did it for me. It did it. I was so invested in this book. I thought this book was going to take me so long because girl's chunky. Girl is chunky. But I think I read this in like 24 hours. It was good. If you want a dark fantasy, here we go. Read it. Oh, it was so good. The twists, the turns, literally, it was, I was on my toes and I had to read the second one. So that is exactly what I did. I went on, because I don't have it physical. I'm trying really hard not to buy the whole series of books before I read the first one. So what I'm trying to do is read the first one, then I'll go out and buy the second one, and then if there's any more. And this is the time where I actually kicked myself for not buying the whole series first. But luckily, the second one was on Kindle Unlimited. I think there are 3 books that are currently out. There is a 4th one coming. I don't know when it's going to be released. I have no idea. But I read the second one, which is Throne of the Broken Gods. Yeah. I only gave this one a 4 stars because it was more like plot-based stuff. And even though I do like a good plot development thing, I'm more into my character development. Like, I like seeing the relationships, I like seeing the romance, I like seeing where things are going and who's fighting for who, and you know, the chemistry and the intensity. I'm really hoping that is a word because I'm going to keep saying it now. But also the chemistry, like I love seeing that. I love seeing that between characters, but obviously I know that you're going to need a plot as well or it's going to get really, really boring. So the second one was more plot, it was more of the build-up for everything, but let me just say, it still shocked me. I was still bamboozled. I was like, what is going on? Who are these people? They're coming out of nowhere. And yeah, I mean, I have my theories, and I definitely need to read the third one. I haven't read that one yet, but that's on my TBR. It's such a good series. It's so good, definitely. Dark romance, tick. The Book of Azrael. That series. I think the series is actually called Gods and Monsters. Let's just say it lives up to that title. It does not slack. Anyway, moving on. Lightlock. I actually gave this book a 3 stars. I don't know what it was about this book. I'm definitely going to read the next one. I think I'm still just a little bit confused. I can see where people say that it is a very like tropey book. Sometimes I felt like things were said or done for the sake of it instead of it actually working with the story itself. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, I just didn't connect to the characters. I didn't feel the energy. I just didn't get the chemistry or really anything. It definitely took me by surprise in some bits, and I was getting more invested towards the end. But I'm like that with every single book when things like come to light and you're suddenly getting all the answers. Like, obviously, I'm going to be more invested in the end of the story. So I'm going to carry on because I want to see if the next one does it any justice. I don't know. So I'm going to give it one more go with the next book and just see. It is one that I would recommend if you're like just getting into reading and you want something that is more tropey and, you know, says all the right things and does all the right things that people enjoy. Then yeah, read it. But if you want something that's more like plot and like development and you want that banter, you want that intensity, then it's not something that I would be like, yeah, go read. But still, like, it was an alright book. I enjoyed it. Now, this is when I went on holiday. And this is when I pretty much read everything on my Kindle because I knew I was going to Hay-on-Wye. And if you don't know what Hay-on-Wye is, it's basically a village in Wales that is just full of books. Like, everywhere you look, there is a bookshop. But not once did I see a Waterstones or the Works. And that was my favourite thing in the entire world. It is literally known as the Book Village. And there were so many independent bookstores. And, you know, there was second-hand books. There was also new releases. There were new shiny books. And there were old books. And literally every single book that you can think of was there. And so I knew that I didn't want to bring physical copies with me because I knew that I was going to buy loads of books. And did I buy loads of books? Yes, I did. So glad that I brought my Kindle, but that just meant that I read a lot of Kindle books instead. So let's just get into this 1 week of August. Now, I finished the Rule Breaker series, which is the hockey romance college series. The next one was Rule of the Game, and this one is brother's best friend. He falls first, like possessive, not possessive, but like protective is there for her in nightmares. But I felt like this book was given like a lot of communication things, which I didn't really enjoy. I did only give it a 4 stars because it wasn't like the first one. I wasn't getting the same sort of like 5-star feelings as the first one, but it was still a really, really enjoyable book. Especially this one kind of went back in time from the first book. The first book, you saw the couple and you saw that they did get together. But also, I'm really happy that they did that because there was also talk of another character within that first book, and we got to actually see them in the second book and how that whole concept worked. And also, like, we knew that these 2 characters were going to get together because we saw them like in the future. But it was still really enjoyable. I don't know, it kind of took me by surprise a bit. I didn't think the main girl in that book went through that, like the stuff that she went through. Like, I wouldn't have guessed it. So, you know, I still really enjoyed it, just not my favorite one out of the series. I think that one was my least favorite one out of the whole series. But then I read Rules of Our Own. Oh my god, 5 stars. Oh my god, this was a 500-page book, maybe just over that. And oh my dear lord, I was definitely praying for my soul when I was reading this book, but I kid you not, I was obsessed with it. I was obsessed the whole way through it. We have 3 people, 3. There was 3 of them in this book, and it was best friends and also the best friend of the main girl in the first book. Like, in the first book, there was hints of everything that was going on between the 3 of them, and I was like, And then this is the book that I wanted to originally read, and then I realized it was in a series, so I knew I was going to read the first ones first and then get to this one. And Lord, was it worth the wait? Yes, it was, because it was mwah. I loved it. I loved it so much. It was so good. The chemistry, the intensity, the banter, the longing, like just everything about this book. I was just on the edge of my seat, and I kid you not, when I was not reading it, all I was thinking about was reading it. And when I was reading it, it didn't even feel like I was reading. So I was enjoying it so much. I've never read a book that had like a relationship thing with 3 people before, but it didn't disappoint. I was like, I loved it. It was a 5-star. I will take no criticism on that book, and I will take no judgment on that book either. So yeah, if you didn't like the book, just don't talk to me. I just don't want to hear it. No. Goodbye. And then I read the novella of the book, which is only like 50 pages, which was Rules We Break, and it was just so nice. It was following mainly the guys from Rules of Our Own, and we were seeing a little bit more into the future, but then we also got to see the other guys, and it was just a really nice wrap up of the whole of the series. And I will be buying the physical copy of the series because I just loved it so much. I loved it so much. If you want a hockey romance, my god, guys, read it. And if you read it and if you don't like it, then just don't talk to me. Just go talk to somebody else about it. I will only take positive things from this series. It was so good. It was so good. Just what I needed. And I definitely want to read more hockey romances. I love a good hockey romance, or like a sports romance. It's so much fun. But then I did go on and I read fantasy. I've even been in like a hockey mood or a fantasy mood, and the next one I read was a 700-page book. I can't believe I read this book in the time that I did, but it was called Of Darkness and Ruination. It's the first one in the Star Queen Chronicles. I didn't know where to look with this book. I didn't know how to feel. This book took me on a roller coaster, and it's definitely a book that you need to just power through and get past the halfway point. The first half of the book was hard, but it was necessary. Like, everything that happened in the first part, you needed that build of the world, of the characters, of the plot, even though it was like, sometimes I was like, I can't believe I'm reading this. Like, it's things that happening that I never would have thought, but I loved it. And then the second half of the book was literally a reward. I'm taking the second half of the book was the best, like the best. I gave this book a 4 stars. I think I would have given it a 5 stars if I knew more what was happening. I definitely believe that you need to read trigger warnings for this. There was no trigger warnings at the start of the book. I think it did do you had to go online. Definitely think it was needed in the start of the book because a lot of things happened. But it was very sex positive, and I really like that. Smartiest book I've ever read. Like 5-star smart. So if you do not like smart, do not read this fantasy. But it was like dark fantasy, like the smart was happening, enemies to lovers, like there's twists, turns. I can't even describe. I can't describe this book. But 700 pages, I had the time of my life. I was having so much fun with this book. Once I got used to it and the writing and the language and literally everything that was happening and I understood the world, so much fun. So much fun. And then after I finished that book, I actually then did read some paperback books. These were the ones that I bought in Hay-on-Wye, just because my sister picked them up. And I read the back of them and I was like, oh, that sounds a bit like me. So I read them both. It is a dual series. Now these two, I've never heard of the Deadly Divine Duet before. So we've got the first one, which is Nectar of the Wicked, and the second one is Wrath of the Damned. I read these books so quickly. I think combine them together, I read them in 48 hours, 2 days. I devoured these two books. These two were so easy to read. I gave them both a 4. I did prefer the first one, again, because I'm more of a character development. I want to know the relationship thing. But to be fair, this one did pretty well. This one took me by surprise, and especially with how this one ended and what happened towards the last 100 pages, I was like, oh my god, I'm so glad I went out and bought the second one the next day. I did really enjoy these. It's a dark fantasy, it's marriage of convenience, it's false proximity, it's enemies to lovers, it's a he falls first. Yeah, it was so easy. It's definitely not that plot heavy. It was the plot and the battle and the sort of war, I'm going to say lightly, war aspect of it was really simple and really easy, and definitely something I needed after reading that 700 page book. I flew through it. I think I was getting lost in it, but I was reading it to the point where I wasn't really paying that much attention to what I was reading because it was that easy. And even though I did have to reread pages because everyone was just talking and it was just so loud, and I was reading things and then realizing I wasn't reading, so then I had to go back and reread it again. But even if I didn't reread it, because it's so easy to follow and it was so easy to pick up where we were and what was happening, it was just enjoyable. It was enjoyable enough. So I did give it a 4 stars, but I am thinking I'm probably going to take it down to a 3.75 because I think it could have got a lot deeper. There could have been more things added to it that just kind of took it on to the next level. But yeah, definitely a really good dark romantasy. We love a fae romance. So there's fae, humans, and then there was a goblin in this, and I freaking loved the goblin. But yeah. And then the last book that I read, which I only gave 2 stars, and I'm a little bit peeved off that I've given it 2 stars. Excuse me. Because it's a classic and it's a book everyone loves. Well, not the book, but the author. I don't even want to show you. The Great Divorce. It's a Christian-led book about this tour bus to heaven. And this is where I'm getting really confused because I have no idea what actually happened in this book. I did not understand the language. I didn't get where we were, what was happening, time or anything, because it wasn't that descriptive. It was really speech-led stuff. So I wasn't into it. I wasn't quite there. I only know now really what the book is about because I read a bunch of reviews about it and people summing it up, but it's only 140 pages. I read it in a night. I read it in one sitting. But yeah, I gave it a 2 because honestly I wouldn't recommend it, because I wouldn't recommend a book that I didn't understand. So unfortunately I gave this a 2 star, literally for the fact that I could not understand the language. But it is over 100-year-old book, so I'm not surprised, but I had to read this for book club, and I'm so glad that I read it in one single night. But that is pretty much all the books that I read in August, and it's the fact that it's only the 25th of August and not even in the end that I believe I am going to be finishing more books in August. But I wanted to film this video before it got really, really long. But yeah, that's the 17 books that I read this month. I can't believe I read 17. I think this is the biggest book month that I've had so far this year. But I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!